Here we are, Lemons fans, at part 3 of our 2020 season wrap-up. Part 1 was all of the Organizer's Choice winners, Part 2 was all of the Index of Effluency winners, and this final piece will be the National Champions. Now, what are the National Champions? Well, believe it or not, we have a whole point system that is outlined on our rules page on the website. You can accumulate points for the region and nationally. Regional winners get free entry in the last race of the season. National winners, well, they get mentioned in the end of season recap. And after the points, we've got some special awards. We've got the Constructors Champion, which is the manufacturer that accumulates the most points through the course of the season. The Deconstructors Champion, which is the manufacturer that consistently failed the most spectacularly through the course of the season. And lastly, there is the grand prize, the Coppa di Bondo, which is the team that really embodies the whole Lemon spirit and experience for the entire year. And usually that means they've run multiple races. Usually that means they've done multiple super amazing things. It's kind of a year-long Index of Effluency. That's what all you guys should be shooting for. Now, of course, this wasn't just any old run-of-the-mill Lemon season. This was 2020, where we all faced all kinds of different challenges.
Yeah, 2020 was like Gumby driving a dog-filled garbage truck into a Ford Tempo with Fred Rogers and Kermit the Frog in it.
Yeah, you know, it was like falling first in front of a combine harvester and getting your sucked up through the twisty blades and getting it spit out in a mist of sauce.
2020 was a lot like being stuck in a Pontiac G3 in the midst of being repoed, while evil Soviet operatives shove cinnamon Tic Tacs up your hole with a sharpened chopstick.
2020 as the Texas regional judge, this has been horrible. I couldn't extort anyone for Is that fair? No. My wet bar is empty. Empty. 2020.
2020 is like a range hand. It's rough. You're never really prepared for it.
2020 was like finding out your perverted car collecting great uncle left you an American classic and a hand-built Italian car in his will, only to find out it's a Lante and a Chrysler TC by Maserati.
Oh man, 2020 has been like this eating. It's like Phil taking it like the suppurating thing coming out of your mouth, describing, and there's a dog in the back. And it's just like and then it was like so it's just up.
2020. What a giant mother pile and a flaming sidecar. Open wound of a time period took Eddie Van Halen, Alex Trebek, and mother Chuck Yeager. So like sometime around like March 89, I think we all just stopped asking, could it get any worse? Seeing how many we could take right in the eye. It's just not your year, is it? And there we stayed on our knees at this truck stop portage on hole of history. Get to sucking, flower of the abyss. Roll down that rusty zipper on the Wranglers, the lines of age and disappointment growing deeper each day's hollow figure that looks back at us from the mirror in the morning.
"2020 was like a Dodge Journey."
The first award is the National Team Champion on points. Now, Lemon's points, how do they work? Well, you get 3 points for just entering and completing a race. Well, maybe not completing, but showing up. You get 2 points for every one of your rookie drivers. and you get a sliding scale of points if you finish in the top 10 overall for a race. So your team's total points are just all of those things added up together, and the national champion is the team that has the most points.
That national champion this year was Ginger Racing. They are based out of Texas. And when I say Ginger Racing as a team, they're a team that has about 20 cars and 50 people who run them. Whole bunch of rookies. They scored points for entering a bunch of cars. They scored points for a bunch of first-timers. They also scored points for top 10 finishes, which is kind of just a broad way of doing it. Are their cars particularly interesting? No, not really. But they showed up en masse. They had a good time. They mostly stay out of the penalty box, and in general, they're pretty successful in the low bar that is Lemon's success.
Rounding out the podium of the national points champions was USMC Racing, the great team that puts military and first responders into their cars to race Lemons, and Three Pedal Mafia, longtime Lemons competitors. We love them too.
The rest of your top 10 is Breaking Bad Racing, You Mad Bro Racing, Hella Shitty Racing, Dunning-Kruger Effect Racing, which is fitting for this year, Salty Thunder Racing, Sorry for Party, and Team Non Sequitur from the Midwest, rounding out the top 10.
The next award is the National Drivers Champion, which is another points-based award. This one went right down to the wire. The winner was Matthew Faridas of Sorry for Party Racing. He edged out Three Pedal Mafia's Christian Mental Ward by a single point. Now, for national drivers points, any team that you're registered on counts towards your points total. So the drivers that are in contention for the national championship are generally people who are doing all kinds of arrive and drives and flying all over the country. Mental was certainly that guy, and so was Matt Faridas, the champion. He was originally a member of Sorry for Party Racing over there on the East Coast, also associated with Three Pedal Mafia, also associated with Ranwin Parked Racing. Matt recently moved across the country from the East Coast to California. The Sorry for Party Firebird is going to make some new West Coast friends. They've got a second team car, a Pontiac Solstice. We assume Matt's going to continue to bounce across the country to drive in different things and probably rack up even more championship Lemons points. So well done and congratulations.
And rounding out the National Drivers Championship podium, as Nick mentioned, was Christian Mental Ward. And Chris Blizzard from Hella Shitty Racing, a two-time race winner this year.
Just like Lewis Hamilton, yeah.
Just like Lewis Hamilton. And the rest of the top 10, and I'm probably going to butcher your names, were Chris Champion, Anton Lovett, Daniel Whitty, Amanda Tully, Van Duke, John Whitson, and Jim Losoli.
In addition to national championships, we also give out regional championships for the teams and the drivers. We have 5 regions. That's a lot of stuff. Here are those.
The next award is the Constructors Champion, and this is the manufacturer that racked up the most championship points during the course of the year, and this year it was BMW. And well, it's the ultimate driving machine.
Technically, BMW won, but, you know, they always win. So let's talk about some of the manufacturers that did better than they had any right to. We'll start with General Motors. GM vehicles won both of the Michigan races, which is, of course, where GM should be winning races, being in the middle of the Rust Belt. Plus, we also had top 10 points for 2 different Corvettes, a Fiero, an Oldsmobile Omega, a Solstice, and another Fiero that won the 12-hour race at High Plains. Pretty good performance for General Motors.
Yeah, speaking of the Rust Belt, we also want to mention American Motors. Yep, good old AMC. They had 3 top 15 overall finishes, 2 of which from Team Lowball, both of which were Class C wins, and the third was a 14th overall by the Murder Hornet. Well done, Kenosha.
The Deconstructors champion goes to the manufacturer whose crap does the worst, maybe relative to expectation. And in this case, it went to Mercedes-Benz. Of course, the overbuilt, indestructible tanks built by Mercedes, they all were awful. They had 1 top 10 finish for the entire year, which didn't come until the last race. We were really kind of hoping for no points from Mercedes. The depreciation curve on these still is absolutely hilarious. Great Lemons cars in the sense that they're really terrible.
And that brings us to the Coppa di Bondo. Again, this is sort of a year-long IOE. These are the teams that consistently throughout an entire season do things in a spectacular and lemony way. Couple of honorable mentions to get started. First, we've got the League of Legitimate Nigerian Businessmen. This team ran 3 races in the span of 3.5 months with complete and total dedication to not giving one half of a of things like quick pit stops, lap times, turning laps, having a car that isn't broken, and anything else that falls into the category of real racer concerns. And then they had that one theme.
Oh yeah. Oh baby. Oh yeah. So disturbing. Midwest beefcake. Blown head gasket.
Now, the second Coppa di Bondo honorable mention goes to the collective known in some quarters as the Super Happy Fun Club, which is kind of a super team of Lemons captains who ran the brown rubber sole Mazda 626 and Lemons' first Chinese-built car, the Volix C20R.
Представяме ви новата любов на Ани, Volix C10, топ цена, топ оборудване.
These cars, absolutely horrible in every way. They did remarkably well in all of them. They also won Class B in their Ford Probe. Very, very well done from not a lot of material to start with.
And that brings us to the 2020 24 Hours of Lemons Coppa di Bondo champion. And it goes to Ran Out of Talent Racing, also running under the Victory Insight banner. They had a Geo Metro and a Honda Insight. This team started the year at Indy in Arizona. They won the heroic fix with the Geo Metro by knocking on the door of a random farmhouse that had a Geo Metro in the yard to ask if they could take parts off of it. Then they went on to the Ridge. They won Class C with that same Metro. Then they took the Metro to the 24-hour race at High Plains in Colorado, ran it with just 2 drivers, a father and son, finished 14th overall after having to weld their broken axle directly to their hub. And they wrapped up their season at Buttonwillow, where they brought both the Metro and Lemon's first Honda Insight, which was running without its electric assist, so it just had the 60 horsepower 3-cylinder gas motor. That car just cruised to a Class C win. So from beginning to end, this team, they had heroic fix, they had class wins, they had interesting vehicles, they had incredible challenges like running a 24-hour race with 2 drivers. They really embodied the spirit of what Lemons Racing is all about and are well deserving of the Coppa di Bondo.
Those are our 2020 champions, and that brings us at last to 2020 in a nutshell.
At first glance, Taking this tomato down through these spinning fan blades may seem impossible, but I'm here to show you it's not.